This plan will eliminate property taxes in Florida as homeowners are getting slammed with rising costs. And guess what? Not everyone is paying their fair share. Governor Ron DeSantis is all for getting rid of property taxes, and he just told us how to do it on X. But I'll be honest, I've been getting hundreds of comments asking me, if we get rid of property taxes, where is all the money gonna come from for roads, schools, police, and fire? How are we gonna pull this off? Now, that's a great question, and I got the answer. I've crunched the numbers, and I'm gonna show you the perfect plan to make it happen. I'm gonna tell you exactly how property taxes work, what they pay for, and I'll walk you through step by step and how we can eliminate them. Let's jump in. Now, right off the bat, I wanna be clear about this. DeSantis had said he will absolutely not raise state taxes to replace property taxes. That means if we're gonna fix this, the solution isn't coming from the state. So our job just got a little harder. But let's be real, DeSantis is the one who got this whole conversation started in the first place. He put a post out on X and now everyone's talking about it. And he's not wrong. Florida's property tax system is completely out of control. Homeowners are getting hammered with rising assessments and local governments are cashing in. DeSantis has flat out said taxpayers need relief.
Taxpayers need relief. Oh, and one other thing. Don't let anyone tell you we're going to seek to raise state taxes because this body will not pass tax increases and this governor will not sign any tax increases.
Florida lawmakers are finally starting to take property tax relief seriously, and they're looking at a few different ways to make it happen. One idea being tossed around is completely getting rid of property taxes, which is exactly what needs to happen. But since that's a massive change, they're also considering smaller steps like raising the homestead exemption to $75,000 or even $100,000 to give homeowners a break. Right now, they're running an economic impact study to see how these changes would affect public services. But let's be real, we all know there's plenty of wasted money in government spending that could be cleaned up first. The big thing to watch is a possible constitutional amendment on the 2026 ballot. If lawmakers can get a 3/5 majority in both the House and Senate, it'll go to voters. And if 60% of Floridians approve it, we could be looking at serious property tax reforms or complete elimination. The question is, will local governments fight to protect their biggest money grab, or will they actually give homeowners some relief? Some other ideas being thrown around include capping how much a senior's home value can be taxed once they turn 65. This would stop retirees from getting priced out of their own homes just because the city decides their house is suddenly worth way more than what they bought it for. These proposals are all about reducing the burden on homeowners, which is long overdue. But the real win, eliminating property taxes altogether. That's what Florida needs to aim for. And I'm gonna let you in on a little secret. Homeowners are paying for renters' kids to go to school too. This is one of the reasons property taxes are so oppressive. You have to pay for everyone else to use the system if you own a home. But if you stop paying, you suffer the consequences, nobody else. Now, to be fair, tenants pay rent and landlords have to cover all their expenses, including property taxes. So technically, renters do contribute to school funding, but it's nowhere near what homeowners pay. Now, this isn't just a bash on renters. I'm a landlord and I've been a renter myself. It's just a fact. And based on Florida's funding structure and household data, we can estimate that renters cover about 23.7% of school funding through their rent, while homeowners are stuck paying a whopping 61.7%. The remaining 14.6% comes from federal funding and other sources. So a homeowner with no kids in school pays way more in taxes for education than a renter with 4 kids in the system. Take me, for example. My wife and I don't have any kids, yet we've been paying taxes for schools for over 30 years. And retirees who don't have any kids left in the school system, they still have to pay too. That sounds like a pretty oppressive tax to me. Shouldn't school funding be a pay-as-you-use-it system? And then there's the worst part. Your taxes go up based on what your home is worth, not what you paid for it. Let's say you bought your house 30 years ago for $200,000. Now the county says it's worth $1.3 million. So your tax bill skyrockets, even though you haven't sold it and you're not making any extra money. That's just wrong. Property taxes don't care if you're retired and living on a fixed income. They don't care if you lost your job or are struggling to get by. The bill shows up every year, and if you can't pay, you lose your home. That's why property taxes are the most oppressive tax out there. And have you ever wondered, where does all that property tax money actually go? Most people think the state of Florida collects it, but that's not how it works. The state doesn't touch a dime of it. Florida gets its money through other sources like sales tax, corporate income taxes, and various fees. Property taxes are collected at the local level, meaning counties and municipalities get all that money to fund their budgets. So when people talk about getting rid of property taxes, what they're really saying is that local governments would need to find a different way to pay for everything they fund. Now, let's break it down. I live in Pinellas County, so I'm going to use it as an example. Property taxes collected in 2024 were around $2.57 billion. So where does it all go? Around 33% of the taxes go to fund county services like roads, parks, libraries, and the sheriff's office. Another 47% go directly to schools. About 12% support city services like local police and fire. The remaining 8% covers special districts like fire protection, water management, and EMS. That's a huge amount of money, and if we got rid of property taxes, we'd have to replace it somehow. But here's the thing. Just because property taxes have always been the way to fund these services doesn't mean it's the best way. There's other ways to do it, and plenty of examples of governments that waste money instead of using it efficiently. If we actually looked at spending and cut out all the waste, we wouldn't need to rely so much on property taxes in the first place. The question is, do our local governments actually want to be efficient, or do they just want to keep reaching into homeowners' pockets every year? I bet you know the answer. Now let's talk about how we actually replace property taxes. This is where the numbers matter. And I'm going to break it all down so you can see exactly how it works. First off, the state is finally cracking down on wasteful spending. DOGE is coming to Florida, and I can't wait. This is the same system Elon Musk is running at the federal level to expose waste, fraud, and abuse, and now it's heading to our state, counties, and cities. This is huge. We're going to see exactly where our tax dollars are going, and even better, we'll know who voted to approve every dime of it. But transparency alone isn't enough. We need a real plan to replace property taxes. And let's be honest, it's not a small number. We're talking about $2.57 billion in revenue that has to be made up. That's a big chunk of money. But here's the thing, it's not impossible. The smartest way to do this? Shift the tax burden from property owners to a consumption-based system. That means instead of forcing homeowners to cough up thousands every year just to stay in their homes, we spread the cost out. Tourists, renters, businesses, everyone pays their fair share based on what they spend, not what they own. So first, sales tax. Right now, Pinellas County has a 1% local sales tax on top of Florida's 6%. If we bump that up to 2.817%, that brings the total to 8.17%. Sounds like a big number, but let's break it down. On a $100 shopping trip, you'd pay an extra $1.82. That's it, barely noticeable. But across the entire county, that small change would bring in $545 million a year. And here's the best part. Tourists would cover a big chunk of it. With 16 million visitors spending like crazy, around 180 million of that would come from them. That's free money Pinellas residents wouldn't have to pay. Next up, real estate transactions. Instead of homeowners getting slammed with tax bills every single year, we swap it for a one-time 2% fee when a home's bought or sold. On a $375,000 house, that's $7,500 up front. But if we split it between the buyer and the seller, it's only $3,750 each. Compare that to paying an average property tax of $5,800 every single year. That swap alone brings in $135 million annually. Now, let's talk about tourists. Right now, they pay a 6% hotel tax. If we bump that to 8%, that's an extra $36 million a year. That's only $4 more on a $210 a night hotel. Throw in a simple $1 per night fee, and we add another $3.9 million. No one's canceling their Florida trip over an extra $5 a night. And this one's one of my favorites, a county-run lottery. Sell $5 scratch-offs at the beach, online tickets, whatever gets people playing. If total sales hit $1.5 billion, even after paying out prizes, we're looking at $600 million in revenue. That's money rolling in without squeezing homeowners for another dime. Then there's the waste. Pinellas County's budget is $4.3 billion a year. And you're telling me we can't find 10% in bloat? A simple 10% spending cut saves $330 million easy. And with DOGE coming to Florida, we're about to find out exactly where that waste is hiding. We've also got county-owned land just sitting there that could be leased out for commercial use. Hotels, shops, restaurants, you name it. That alone could bring in $170 million a year. Miami-Dade already does this with the Miami Heat's arena. And let's not forget all the tourism-related businesses the county could run itself. Beach parking, shuttles, snack stands. If Pinellas ran tourism like a business, 16 million visitors a year could bring in $750 million in profits. Now let's add it all up. We got $545 million from sales tax, $135 million from real estate transactions, $39.9 million from hotel taxes, $600 million from the county lottery, $330 million from cutting waste, $170 million from leasing county land, and $750 million from running a profitable tourism business. That's $2.57 billion right there and right on target. Just like that, property taxes are gone. This system just makes more sense because it's based on what you spend, not what you own. You actually have control. If money's tight, you cut back on spending. Can't afford a new TV? You don't buy it. But with property taxes, it doesn't matter if you're struggling. Pay up or they're gonna take your house. That's a problem. Switching to a consumption-based tax system means you only get taxed when you actually spend money, not just for owning a home. And remember, in Florida, there's no sales tax on groceries, prescriptions, or certain baby products, so the essentials wouldn't cost you a dime more. Now listen, they're not gonna wanna give up property taxes without a fight. Local governments love them because it's like a guaranteed paycheck that never stops. Every single year, they rake in billions, and they don't want that to change. So of course, they're gonna try to scare us into thinking this could never work. And I guarantee there are people in the comments right now saying the same thing. Property taxes are necessary. The government can't run without them. That's because they've been told that their whole lives. The truth is, government doesn't want to change because it's way easier to keep pulling money from homeowners than it is to actually fix wasteful spending. They've been running things this way for so long, they don't want to admit there might be a better way. They'll say eliminating property taxes is impossible, but the reality is they just don't want to give up control. Remember this, the Boston Tea Party happened because our forefathers were so fed up, they refused to pay the King of England just a few extra cents per pound of tea. A few cents. And now we hand over more than 50% of our lifetime income to taxes. What happened? I like driving on smooth roads and I want the police patrolling my neighborhood. But there's a difference between paying for necessary services and being taxed into oblivion just for owning a home. I'll be the first to admit, my plan might not be bulletproof. Maybe you got a better idea. Let me know in the comments. But the point is, if we get the right people looking into eliminating property taxes, I know we can make it happen. The only question is, do we actually want to? Or are we just gonna keep doing things the way they've always been done? And if you think property taxes are a scam, click here to see why solar is a total ripoff in Florida. They promise huge savings, but in reality, you get shady loans, bad installs, and panels that barely work. Click here, and I'll see you there.